Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to be reviewing Winston Churchill, the Roaming Lion, with Dr. Larry Arnn on the Peterson Academy. So for those of you who don't know, Dr. Larry Arnn is the current president of Hillsdale College, which is another online university, a little bit conservative leaning, that has fantastic courses for free. You don't have to sign up and pay $500 a year like with the Peterson Academy. Now, you can enroll, pay some money, and get a degree if you're interested in that with Hillsdale College. I don't know exactly how much their tuition costs if you want a degree, but the free courses that they have available, I believe they have anywhere between 40 and 50. I'm not sure what the number is. I've taken a couple of them. They're absolutely fantastic. Now, are they on the same level as the Peterson Academy when it comes to presentation and quality? No, but when it comes to the information in the courses, I think it's pretty much on par with the Peterson Academy. So if you're looking for an alternative to the Peterson Academy, you don't want to spend the $500 a year, maybe check out Hillsdale College, because I found some fantastic courses there that I really enjoyed. So I really like what Larry Arnn is doing, and I thought that he presented a fantastic course here on the Peterson Academy, so I can't wait to talk about that today. I have a couple nitpicks with the course, if I'm being honest, but we'll get to that in a second. Winston Churchill is one of those figures that I absolutely love learning about. I love learning about all the major players and figures of World War II, and Winston Churchill is near the top of that list for me. So I have read this book on Winston Churchill. It's the only book that I've currently finished on Winston Churchill. It's a single volume biography, maybe the best one out there. That's what I hear from other people, at least. It's Andrew Roberts' Churchill book, Walking with Destiny. I've said it before when I reviewed Andrew Roberts' course on the Peterson Academy that he's one of my favorite historians of all time. I love his Napoleon biography. I absolutely love this one as well. And I'm currently working through The Last Lion, which is a 3-volume biography, which is kind of considered the master biography on Churchill. It's kind of the magnum opus, the biggest one. I believe there is a an autobiography, I should say, that Winston Churchill wrote himself about his own life. I haven't read that yet, so when I eventually get around to that, I will obviously make a Why You Should Read video on it. I'll have a Why You Should Read video out on this book very, very soon, because like I said, Andrew Roberts is one of my favorite historians, and this is one of my favorite biographies I've ever read. So I would love to see Andrew Roberts come on the Peterson Academy and also provide a course on Churchill that I think would just provide, more of a range that we can select from. And like I said, I have a couple nitpicks with this course, but we'll get to that in a second. We'll get to this Larry Arnn course in a second here. But let's get into the synopsis on the Peterson Academy website. In Winston Churchill, the Roaming Lion, a 6-hour course, Dr. Larry Arnn examines Winston Churchill's life, philosophy, and political legacy through a comprehensive analysis of his military experiences, leadership principles, and views on governance. The lectures explore Churchill's evolution from a soldier-writer to a statesman, highlighting his perspectives on warfare, democracy, and individual liberty, while examining how Britain's geography and history shaped his strategic thinking. The course delves into Churchill's complex political philosophy, including his approach to just war, constitutional government, and the balance between social welfare and individual freedom. So yeah, hopefully that gives you guys a better view of what this course is about. I absolutely loved the course as far as the information that was within it. I thought that Larry did a fantastic job of reciting lines and quotes from Churchill's writings and his speeches. He says multiple times throughout the course, and I'm not trying to take a jab at him here, but he says multiple times throughout the course that he's read basically everything there is to read that Churchill ever wrote. And I do believe him, because the way that he was quoting things off the top of his head was quite impressive. However, getting into some of my more general criticisms here about the course, it's all over the place. And to be honest, 6 hours, this might be extreme language, but 6 hours is kind of insulting to Churchill, to only spend 6 hours on a man's life who lived to 90 years old and had like 50 plus years in politics. I think it's way too short of a course. I think everything was just kind of crammed together, and it was disorientating because it was all over the place. Even though he goes through his life chronologically, and he does a decent job at that, he does jump around a lot, and he'll talk about Aristotle for a bit, and then he'll talk about over here, and then jump back here, and it can be disorientating at times, but like I said, the information provided in the lectures was incredibly useful and informative and engaging. So a very difficult course to score if I was going to give it like a mark out of 10. So I won't do that today, but But yeah, I'll get into some of my more specific criticisms in a second here. I'll run through the names of each of the lectures, and then we'll talk about a specific lecture that I had a couple problems with. But here are the names of all the lectures, and if you guys want to pause and read the little descriptions, feel free to. But the first lecture was titled Beginnings of a Statesman. The second lecture is Churchill on Governance. The third lecture is Churchill on Warfare. The fourth lecture is Churchill on Leadership. The fifth lecture is Churchill on Politics. And the sixth lecture is Churchill on Civilization. So yeah, as you can see there from the names of the lectures, he doesn't exactly go in a chronological order. He kind of has subjects that he touches on in each lecture. I didn't really like that. I'd rather somebody go through Churchill's life in chronological order, touch on him as a young man, him in World War I, him in World War II, bring in different stories and anecdotes, and build out the story that way. So if Andrew Roberts ever does a course on the Peterson Academy about Churchill, I hope that he goes through his life chronologically, and I hope he takes more lectures to do it. But anyways, I was saying before that I have specific criticisms about a specific lecture in this course, and it's Lecture 3. If you're signed up for the Peterson Academy, you guys can go see my comments on Lecture 3. But in the first 15 minutes, there were 3 misnomers, 3 historical misfacts that were spewed in rapid succession that I have to point out because they're horribly wrong. If you get a date wrong by a year or two, or you mispronounce a name, that's one thing. But when you're doubling numbers, that's dangerous. And I saw Jordan Peterson do this recently. So, even very smart people are susceptible to this sometimes. But Jordan Peterson in a recent podcast said that in Cambodia under Pol Pot, 4 million people died. And he said it boldly with conviction. And his guest said with the same level of conviction, yes, at least 4 million. That's not true. Those estimates come from a 1980 estimate that was very anti-communist, and that's been debunked since. If 4 million people died under Pol Pot, that would have been 50% of the population. That is unheard of in history. It's not doable. And the realistic estimates are between 1.4 and 2.1 million. It's a horrible atrocity. More people should learn about it, and I should make some videos on it on my own channel, but we need to get those numbers right, because saying that 4 million people died when it was really at the higher end 2 is doubling the amount of people. It's adding millions of people onto the death toll that didn't exist. Like, you're just making people up at this point, and that's very dangerous. You need to give the high end and the low end estimates, and you need to give accurate information. I've seen him do this before with Solzhenitsyn and the 70 million people were killed in the Soviet Union. Horrible estimate. I love Solzhenitsyn. I love reading his books. I think his writing is brilliant. It's necessary. I think everybody should read Solzhenitsyn, but I don't think you should take his death toll numbers as like hard fact, because he didn't have a lot of data to pull from. We have better estimates nowadays that are a lot more accurate, and saying that 70 million people were killed in the Soviet Union it's kind of beyond belief at this point. And I don't like communism myself. Like, I'm not a fan of communism, but we need to get the numbers right. We can't be adding or inflating numbers to make our points stronger. That's not a good way of arguing. It makes your points, it can invalidate your points completely, and it makes you less trustworthy. So here are a couple examples from the Hillsdale course, because I could give you guys another example with Joe Rogan, who's one of the most intellectually lazy people I know, just like considering the resources that he has at hand. And, I know he doesn't have a lot of time because he does the UFC and comedy and he's got so many things going on, but that man believes in so many conspiracy theories and he misquotes history so often. I usually have to turn off his podcast, and I don't usually watch his show much more, because it's a lot of that stuff. It's a lot of the pyramids, they go back 10,000 years before we thought. It's like, no, you can't do that. You can't shift the timeline of history by thousands of years. Like, don't even get me started on Graham Hancock. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole today, but Joe Rogan is another guy who commonly misquotes like the death toll from the Mongols. He'll misattribute the death tolls from the Mongols to Genghis Khan. And Genghis Khan's rule was 25 years. The Mongols were 150 years, if not longer. And when you say Genghis Khan killed 70 million people, that's not true. It's not even true that he killed 50 million people. In fact, 30 million people is a very high estimate. 10 to 20 million seems more reasonable. That seems accurate. Now, under the whole Mongol Empire, 70 million you could attribute, but again, that's like a medieval estimate that has been largely discredited. We think probably 50 million is the largest possible number you can attribute deaths-wise to the Mongols. So Again, I could give you guys examples of this stuff all day, but I'm here to talk about the Churchill course, so I'll give you examples from this course specifically. So the first one is he said 2 people have conquered England, and he said William the Conqueror, yeah, you got that one, and Julius Caesar. No, Julius Caesar did not conquer England. That is false. He tried to. He conquered Gaul, which is France, but he tried to conquer England. He didn't succeed. In fact, it was Clodius who ended up conquering England and creating the province of Britannia. So that's a little bit of a mistake there. It wasn't Julius Caesar who conquered England. That's a huge thing to get wrong. In fact, I think it took about 100 years later. I think Julius Caesar started in 54 or 55 BC. It's around then when he tried to take England. And then I think it was in about 40, around that time when Claudius, AD, that Claudius actually took it. So that was one misnomer. And then he also talked about Joan of Arc, who I love. I write poetry about Joan of Arc. Talking about her might make me tear up. Like, she's one person. Every time I think about her, I tear up. I'm French, so I have a deep connection to her. And I can even trace my ancestry back to the 100 Years' War. And I know that I have ancestors that fought in that war. So I have a special spot for Joan of Arc, and I know her history. And he even said, there's no bad time spent reading about Joan of Arc, and you should read about her. And then he said something that's not true. He said that she was unbeatable or unbeaten in battle, which is not true. And I love Joan of Arc. I wish she was unbeaten. I wish she was able to take Paris, but Charles II didn't back her. He didn't give her the full support, and she lost the battle or the siege of Paris, and she was later captured in another battle that she lost. The Battle of Compiègne, that was the one that she was abandoned at. I had to look that up because I totally forgot what battle it was, but it's important to get that right because she was abandoned at the Battle of Compiègne, and she was captured by the Burgundies and sold to the English, and that's when... Well, we know what happened to Joan of Arc. It's very sad. She had some defeats, and those defeats actually led to her being burnt at the stake. It's because she wasn't fully backed by the king that she helped get coronated. So I think it's important to highlight stuff like that and not to say something as, throwaway like Joan of Arc was unbeatable or she was unbeaten, because that's not true. And the third misnomer was when he said that the Spartans were dominant for 300 to 400 years in history. That, again, is not true. They were only dominant for about 150 to 200 years if you're really stretching it, and they weren't dominant everywhere. They were dominant on land. They were the most feared land army, don't get me wrong. But on the water, not as much. And the Spartans had their weaknesses too. So going around saying that they were this super feared, unbeatable army for 300 to 400 years just isn't real. That's not real history. So those are just a couple misnomers that I had to point out, but they didn't really have anything to do with Churchill. They were just kind of throwaway bits of history that, unfortunately, he got completely wrong, but they were just kind of throwaway bits that were kind of leading him up to, I think in that third lecture, he was talking more about like the shape of England and the fact that it's an island empire and what makes it unique in that way. And all of that stuff was super interesting. And I think he got a lot of that stuff really right, and he delivered it in a fantastic way. One key fact that I totally forgot about, I think I was told this in high school, but I forgot about it for years, was the fact that any place in England is less than 50 miles from the ocean. Crazy fact. That's like a useful fact to know. So there's a bunch of facts like that. I don't want to rattle them all off because I want you guys to go take this course. Despite what it might seem like here with my little nitpicks and whatnot, I actually think this is a good course and I do recommend it for people. So I don't want to keep ranting about nitpicking history because I could do that all day. Anytime I watch a history movie, my eyes are darting around like, is that the right armor for the time and stuff like that. So I could do that kind of stuff all day, but we'll wrap up here for today. Actually, we got to go over the recommended books. I don't want to skip that for you guys. So the recommended books for this course: Churchill's Trial by Larry P. Arnn, My Early Life by Winston Churchill, and Winston Churchill's Thoughts and Adventures. So out of those books, I've read 0, unfortunately, but the Larry Arnn book, I think I will come around to reading eventually because I do really like him and this course and what he's doing with the Hillsdale College and the fact that he took this time to come to the Peterson Academy and give us a course on Churchill. I think he's going to come back and do one on Aristotle too, because those are kind of the two figures that he's the most the most knowledgeable on, and the other two books there by Churchill I haven't read. I haven't read anything from Churchill himself yet. I've like perused through some of his writing on World War II, but I haven't really engaged with Churchill's own writings yet. So eventually I'll get around to that, because I do want to buck up and start reading his own writings himself. Once I get through The Last Lion, I think that'll probably be some of my next readings on Churchill is his own writings, right? So those are the recommended books for the course, and yeah, I don't think I have anything else to really say about this one, other than, the course layout was a little rough. I thought it was a little all over the place, sometimes disorientating, but I thought the information provided in the course was fantastic, very useful, a lot of useful information, and a lot of interesting facts about Churchill that I will definitely remember for the rest of my life. And yeah, it was fun to just sit down with Larry for a couple hours and hear him talk about Churchill and recite some of the famous quotes from him and whatnot. So yeah, hopefully we get more Churchill courses in the future. I really liked this one, but I would love to see one from Andrew Roberts. He's really my favorite historian at the moment on Churchill. So yeah, if you guys have any questions about this course, definitely let me know down below in the comments. If you guys liked the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share with your friends to help boost this channel and the algorithm. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, it means the world to me. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.